Yeah, I think we can begin then. Well, welcome guys to this free mini webinar. We call it mini because it's shorter than a normal webinar. Normal webinar is about 1 hour. Well, let's be honest, it's usually 80 minutes because there's a lot of extra and there are also questions. First one you all know, okay? Fordi. I mean, who doesn't know Fordi? Fordi is of course because. Fordi. And I'm sure this is what you've all been taught in the beginning, like right after you came to Denmark or right after you started language school. You're like, jeg kan godt lide blah 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 fordi I like something because. Right? So fordi is super useful. It's a very good conjunction. So the first example we have is hun smiler fordi hun er glad. Right? Hun smiler fordi hun er glad. She's smiling, or she smiles because she's happy. So we have this fordi in the middle. Right? Hun smiler fordi hun er glad. It's a conjunction, and the purpose of a conjunction is to connect or to bind, it's a conjunction, two sentences. That's the idea. Hun smiler fordi hun er glad. Alright. The next one we have is jeg læser fordi jeg har tid til det. Jeg læser fordi jeg har tid til det. I'm reading because I have time for it. And again, same point. Eh? You have fordi in the middle. And you all know this meaning, of course, but it's also very important that when you're studying, you see a lot of examples. And these are out of context. Sometimes you need to see them in context. So they're both good, but it's important that you see something a lot of times before it really sticks. That's the point here. So, fordi jeg har tid til det. Alright, the next one is, fordi han har travlt, siger han ikke noget. Fordi han har travlt, siger han ikke noget. Because he's busy, he's not saying anything. Notice that this is a little bit different. Now here we start with fordi. Right? Fordi, still being a conjunction. Fordi han har travlt. And because we start with that, there's inversion after the comma. Right? Siger han ikke noget. In English, most other languages, you would just be like, han siger ikke noget. Right? But in Danish, inversion is very important. Now, I'm not going into great detail about that today, but it is something to always keep in mind. Inversion. If something starts with conjunction, then there is inversion in the second part, meaning the verb comes before the subject. The verb is the action, the thing they're doing. So yeah, when you start with fordi, there's inversion. Fordi det snart er jul, skal vi købe gaver. Fordi det snart er jul, skal vi købe gaver. Because it's soon Christmas, we're buying presents. Or we have to buy presents. It's kind of both. Vi skal or skal vi is like we're going to or we have to. It's both, depending on the context. So, same thing here. We start with fordi, and then verb dominates, if you will, comes first in the second part. Right? Fordi det snart er jul, skal vi købe gaver. The next one, you also know, but what some of you might not know is that når is like when in the present tense, right? So not the past, but the present, right? Når. Some examples. Vi gør det, når vi kommer hjem. Vi gør det, når vi kommer hjem. We're doing as in we're going to do it when we get home, right? So like when we're home, we'll do it, right? Pretty easy. And again, når is a connector word. Vi gør det, vi kommer hjem, and then you put når in the middle. You connect them. Vi gør det, når vi kommer hjem. On the second page, you have man bliver våd, når det regner. So stupid. Man bliver våd, når det regner. You get wet when it rains, right? Because two things happening at the same time. Correlation, causation. That's it. Or når du har tid, så ring til mig. Når du har tid, så ring til mig. When you have time, then call me. So again, you notice this inversion. Right? Så ring til mig. What is this så? Why do we use så? Så is like then. Right? Then call me. Right? In that case, or when that happens. Når jeg tænker på ham, bliver jeg glad. Når jeg tænker på ham, bliver jeg glad. When I think about him, I become or get or feel happy. right? Again, connected. Når jeg tænker på ham, bliver jeg glad. The next one is da. And it's very important you pronounce it da. Don't say da. This is not Russian or some other Slavic language. Da. Okay? So da is also when, but in the past tense. So this is what you use when you're talking about something that happened in the past, like single occurrence. So when in the past tense. Yep, and you're all there. Great. So I could say, hvad gjorde du, da du vågnede? Hvad gjorde du, da du vågnede? What did you do when you woke up? Right? Like in that moment, what did you do? I couldn't say no here. That would be weird. That would be wrong. Right? Gotta say da. Da du vågnede op. Og hun så mig, da jeg gik forbi. Hun så mig, da jeg gik forbi. She saw me when I walked or passed by. She was here and I came walking by. Hun så mig. She saw me. Da jeg gik forbi. When I walked by. So you see here that again in the middle, pretty easy to understand. And then you have, da hunden begyndte at danse, tog jeg et billede. Da hunden begyndte at danse, tog jeg et billede og billede, but often in real life we're lazy, so we'll say like billede. It's just lazy. Don't copy us there. When the dog started dancing, I took a picture. Right? So again, in that moment, da. And here you see inversion once again. Tog jeg et billede. Right? You wouldn't say, jeg tog et billede. Because if you do that, then it sounds like you're starting a new sentence. Like, da hun begyndte at danse. Jeg tog et billede. It's like two separate things. Right? You need inversion, or it doesn't make sense. Og da de kom hjem, bød vi dem velkommen. Da de kom hjem, bød vi dem velkommen. When they came home, we welcomed them. Right? Welcome. Because, well, you know it by now, it's in the past. So selvom. Selvom is basically like even though or although, the same to us. So don't worry about the English translation. Selvom. And you can spell it like one word as one word, but also as two words. So selvom, with space or without space. This is when there's a contrast. And even though, like despite, even though, although this, then so, something else. Right? Du har shorts på, selvom det er vinter. Du har shorts på, selvom det er vinter. Alright? So you can say that because you're wearing shorts even though it's winter. And again, it's a contrast here. Jeg drak en øl, selvom jeg ikke havde lyst. Jeg drak en øl, selvom jeg ikke havde lyst. I drank a beer, even though I didn't want to, or I didn't feel like it. So again, you didn't want to, but you did it anyway. Selvom. Selvom is very good to have. Most of you already know men, M-E-N, meaning but, and B-U-T, not the one with two T's. Right? But this is another one that's really useful. Selvom. There's some conflict, there's some contrast. Then you have, selvom vi løb, nåede vi ikke toget. Selvom vi løb, nåede vi ikke toget. Even though we ran, like really, we didn't make the train, as in you didn't get on the train. You didn't get on the train in time, you were late. Right? So you would think you might make it because you're running, but you didn't. So therefore there's a contrast. Selvom vi løb, nåede vi ikke toget. And then, selvom hun er smuk, er jeg ikke interesseret. Selvom hun er smuk, er jeg ikke interesseret og interesseret, but we almost never say that, so don't worry. Even though she's beautiful, I'm not interested. Again, you would expect me to be interested because she's beautiful, but no, I'm not. So that's it. Right? Er jeg ikke interesseret? And once again, you see there's inversion here. When we start with selvom, then there's inversion after the comma. And that is so important. I've said this a million times over the last couple of years. But it's a hard point to get. I mean, it's not hard to understand, but it's a hard one to remember because like no other languages really have this. So very, very few languages have them. So that's why it's so important to hammer this point. Then you have hvis. And hvis is if. It means if. Hvis. I think most of you already know this one. Hvis. So, jeg kan ikke sove, hvis fjernsynet er tændt. Jeg kan ikke sove, hvis fjernsynet tændt. I can't sleep, I cannot sleep if the TV is on, as in it's turned on. Okay? Tændt is something is turned on, like electronics or people. So again, here's a conditional. Jeg kan ikke sove, I can't sleep. Hvis, if this is the case, if something is happening. Hvis fjernsynet tændt. Or hun bliver glad, hvis du hjælper hende. Hun bliver glad, hvis du hjælper hende. She'll be happy if you help her. Right? If you help her, she'll be happy. Pretty easy. Hvis vi har råd, så bestiller vi en pizza. Hvis vi har råd, well, that's the R right there, råd. Hvis vi har råd, så bestiller vi en pizza. If we can afford it, then we're going to order a pizza. Right? It's like in the case of being able to afford it, to say it in a fancy way. So it's pretty simple. This is a direct conditional you have in Danish. Now there are more, and in future webinars I'm going to focus on those. But this one is like number one you need to know if you want to say